Hello and welcome to 10-Minute Elections. Today is Tuesday, the 11th of August, 2020. As today we are going to be discussing the 2020 Senate Battlegrounds as Election Day looms closer. So, frankly, I'm focusing this video on a few states just because, first of all, going over the entire competitive Senate map would take way over 10 minutes. I know generally this video is a two-parter, and even then I have to pick and choose what I want to talk about. But really, I've filled in the safe states, but in a lot of the so-called competitive states, there really isn't a lot to talk about since the last video. So those states I'm just going to fill in, and then the states I actually want to cover, I'm going to discuss. So Alaska is likely R. New Mexico should be safe D. Arizona is lean D. Colorado is likely D. Kansas, actually, I'm going to leave Kansas. I want to talk about that one. I'm going to talk about Texas, Iowa, Minnesota is a likely. Michigan, it could either be lean or likely. I'm going to go with lean at this point, but it could become a likely. Mississippi isn't really going to be competitive. That's going to be a likely. Alabama, I've talked about a lot. This is going to be a lean. And let's see, Kentucky is likely, and New Hampshire is likely D. So there you go. That's the Senate map in terms of seats that going in depth about would be pretty redundant. So it's 48 seats for the Democrats and 43 for the Republicans, meaning I think that the 9 seats that will determine the Senate that I haven't already filled in, those are the ones I'm going to talk about. They may not necessarily be the closest races. Notice how, I already marked Arizona, I already marked Alabama. These are expected to be close races, and they could go to the other party. But frankly, I also want to focus on the races with newer developments, more polling data and whatnot. Races that haven't really just held the line from last time. So, Montana, I left this one gray just because it will be so close. I talked about the public policy poll pretty recently in a Montana State of the Day. The lead has gone back and forth, but it tends to give Steve Bullock the advantage here, the incumbent governor. A lot of competitive races here, but the Senate is obviously the most competitive. And as like last time, Montana is still a toss-up. As with Iowa, I did an Iowa State of the Day as well. I'm not going to say this is a race that will determine control of the Senate, because thing is, if the Democrats are winning in Iowa, they've probably, I would think, lost Alabama, but have won Colorado, Arizona, Maine, and North Carolina, all the big four, which would give them 50. Then I guess in that case, winning Iowa, Teresa Greenfield would give them a 51-49 majority, which would give them a majority if Trump was able to win re-election. But I think Montana might be a bigger seat than Iowa. Either way, they're both going to be toss-ups. Kansas, we just had a Senate primary there, and Roger Marshall, the congressman from Kansas, the member of the U.S. House of Representatives, did defeat Chris Kobach, and businessman Bob Hamilton had a better than expected solid third place finish. He was actually pretty close to Kobach, them both in the low 20s. So Kobach drastically underperforms. I know that a poll showed that something like the majority of Roger Marshall voters would not vote for Chris Kobach against Barbara Bollier. But now Republicans should be able to rest easy in Kansas knowing that they have Roger Marshall. However, because the presidential race is now likely, I'm going to keep the Senate race in line with that. Barbara Bollier, I still think, is a strong candidate for the Democrats, but seeing this is Kansas and Roger Marshall is not unpopular, I have no problem rating this as a likely D. I don't think this one will be competitive. I think this one would have been very much on the map had Chris Kobach won that primary, but he didn't. Huge sigh of relief for Republicans there, as that Senate map was not expanded one seat for the Democrats. I know I waited a long time to make the call on Kansas, and I said it would be safe if Roger Marshall won his primary, but because Kansas at the presidential level is now a likely state, so is the Senate race. Just those two should line up. Down in Texas, MJ Hager's actually been closing the gap in the polls. So I'm going to rate this one as a lean, as Joe Biden takes a small lead in the presidential polls here. I still think John Cornyn should win re-election. He's not terribly unpopular. At the same time, he doesn't have the incumbency advantage, or disadvantage for that matter, that Ted Cruz had. However, since it's a presidential election year and not a midterm year, we don't really know how turnout's going to be. Either way, I think we can expect about a 4-point margin in the state of Texas. So moving down over to Georgia. I think I've talked a lot, meaning a little bit, because there isn't much to talk about. In Georgia, David Perdue and John Ossoff, that's going to be a lean, not a tilt. And I still do expect Doug Collins to win this special election, although I would not be surprised if either Raphael Warnock or Matt Lieberman did. I think Warnock has the backing of the DSCC, but Matt Lieberman might actually have a better shot than Warnock. But again, I still think Kelly Loeffler's out of it. I think the order that these candidates could win this seat is Doug Collins, Raphael Warnock, Matt Lieberman, and Kelly Loeffler in that order. South Carolina. This is a state that at the beginning of the season I rated as easily safe. Republicans need not worry here. Then I moved it to likely. I think it was around the time that I moved it to likely on the presidential level. South Carolina now is almost a lean. That is how well Jamie Harrison is doing in those polls, really closing the gap against the very unpopular Lindsey Graham. So I am going to rate this as a likely state for now, but it is a small likely. I think we may be talking 6-7 points here, barely even a likely in what should be a ruby red state, although it is trending to the Democrats, to be fair. The entire South, really, aside from a couple states, are trending to the Democrats. They're certainly outperforming what they were doing here, certainly 10 years ago when Republicans basically swept the South in the midterms. All right, moving up into North Carolina, Cal Cunningham and Tom Tillis. This race, much like the presidential race, it's bluer than the presidential race, but I'm going to leave it as a tilt just for now, debatably a lean seat, but I think this is one we'll just have to see as the election gets closer. I don't think I've made a state of the day on North Carolina yet, so that one might be coming up soon. Keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, North Carolina, it's key to the Democrats taking the Senate, and I think they will win North Carolina as of right now, but obviously, just for the record, toss-up means it's a true toss-up. It's a coin flip, 50-50. Tilt blue or tilt red means toss-up. If you had to bet on one candidate, bet on this one. So in North Carolina, this means toss-up. If you had to bet on a candidate, bet on Cunningham over Tillis, if you had to. The bigger difference is actually between tilt and lean, because lean means one candidate genuinely has a distinct advantage in the state, like in Texas. Texas is not a toss-up. John Cornyn very much has an advantage over MJ Heger in the state of Texas. Whoop! I'll get that back into the lean Republican column, and let's move up into, I think, the state of Maine. It's going to be Susan Collins and Sarah Gideon. I talked a little while ago. Sarah Gideon won a primary easily over Betsy Sweet. There was never expected to be much of a challenge there. But she did even better than expected, so she will face off against Susan Collins, who has drawn the ire of a lot of Democratic groups, a lot of spending going there from the Democratic side. I know the Lincoln Project, which is a GOP anti-Trump group, the biggest one in the country, has been running numerous spots against Susan Collins in Maine. And to be fair, she has been towing the party line more and more this term in the Senate. Obviously, that's a tough line to walk with Trump and the current state of the Republican Party. But I think there is a reason that with Collins' more partisan voting record compared with states being more and more polarized in terms of voting the same on the presidential and the Senate levels, I think there's a good reason to believe that Susan Collins' time has come here. So I'm going to rate this race actually as a lean D. This race was about a year ago exactly. This was a safe Republican race. So the fact that it moved from safe and now all the way over to lean Democrat. So here is my map. I really only talked about the states that were not going to be all that redundant, so I hope I wasn't. 50 seats for the Democratic Party and 48 for the Republicans with 2 toss. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the content. I know I'm enjoying making it for y'all. please like, subscribe, and comment with your hot takes, because this is the place to talk all things electoral politics. And other than that, I'll see y'all in the next one. Stay safe.